Charles, welcome to a new thing that we're doing for the first time, broadcasting from my car. How are you, Charles?
I'm great, Jason, and I'm delighted to see you in a different state than the state of what's left of New York.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a huge improvement probably for you in terms of, as you were explaining, in terms of setup time and complexity, and it frees you up, I think, to do a lot of good things. It's great news.
Yes, absolutely. When I'm on these road trips previously, it was extremely difficult to go from state to state, hotel to hotel, essentially reconstructing exactly the same setup that I have there in New York, which really took me several years to refine and get it to the way we use it. What I've done now is I've recreated essentially exactly the same thing, but with portable devices, and it's going to recreate the same level of capability, and hopefully the audience enjoys the show just as much. But as you said, it's much easier for me to set up, and in the car I can now do it anywhere that I have a cellular signal. So I've also blacked out the windows in the car here. And Charles, you've been in the car, our viewers have not, so welcome to my car, everyone. But now I can travel around and maniacs don't know where I am. I received a call from a maniac on the road the other day. Many people might have seen that on X. People can follow me on X if they would like to do that at JG_CSTT. I don't know if I told you this, Charles, but I actually got the original at CS The Truth restored on Twitter as well. People can people can follow that too. It's a complicated story that I don't want to waste people's time with right now, but it's back. Lawsuits are ongoing. Got to spell it correctly, of course. And there's so much to discuss, Charles, with what's going on in the world. You are joining us, of course, from your new international headquarters. Congratulations on that. And World War III seems to be expanding. We had heard yesterday what appears to be incorrect. Bashar al-Assad doesn't appear that his plane was shot down. He seems to be seeking asylum in Moscow.
Yeah, a lot going on. Forgive me for being in a room that has white walls. There will be art on the walls, but people aren't here yet to install it. And it's a bit cavernous because the ceilings are 10.5 feet high. So forgive the echo. But watching from afar, I think on the good news front, Joe Biden is relevant in that he can still do things, but as far as, he's the lamest of lame ducks. He's a lame duck fuck. The guy is, nobody cares what he has to say. Nobody thinks he's going to do anything positive. And really the only question is how much damage can he do between now and January 20th, and how much of that damage will Trump inherit and have to deal with at noon on the 20th of January 2025. The art department on Breaking Assad poster is fantastic. I'm gently kidding you, Jason, but over my right shoulder, maybe in future shows, we'll be scrolling through the hierarchy of wonderful art department posters that you put together over, now is it seven years of this. There's probably approaching 1,000 wonderful posters, and I think the challenge will be to just pick the best 100.
Yeah.
And there's so many A+. It's just incredible.
Thank you. I will have that for you very soon.
Okay. I'm just gently nudging you. I'm teasing you. But the thing that is really odd about this process here is Assad was in and out in a week, basically, right? After holding on to power, his family, for 50 years. And you're telling me the deep state had nothing to do with that?
Well, it's the same thing they did in Libya, isn't it?
Right, and Iraq. And this notion, if we should, I don't know what they teach at the War College. Do they teach you to be stupider? But because all these supposed national security experts and everyone else are now saying, well, yeah, we could work with these. These are terrorist technocrats. They're jihadists in suits. Is what I was reading on Twitter just now, prepping for this. And have we learned nothing from Rumsfeld and George H.W. Bush deciding it was a good idea to poke the Soviet Union by arming Al-Qaeda and specifically Osama bin Laden. Yes, the Soviet Union imploded. It might have done so for other reasons, but look at the blowback. This idea that we should finance or encourage terrorists to engage in regime change. I mean, regime change, I suppose, is one of the most important elements in business planning for defense contractors and in crooked politicians taking money from same. But regime change should be two of the dirtiest words on earth. In theory, we're a community of approximately 200 nations. We're supposed to tend to our own knitting. To the extent that we provide aid, that aid is supposed to truly help recipients of the aid, not the presidents of the corrupt countries that get the money, certainly not the politicians back home or their family members through leaky NGOs. No, the idea that you should be sitting in a room in any capital talking about how your country is going to affect regime change in another country is foolishness, dangerous foolishness, and it needs to stop. It really, and unfortunately, the UK and the US, I'd say, are the two most aggressive proponents of regime change in the 1945 era. Yes, the Soviet Union did some of that. Yes, other nations have done some of that. But the US and the UK, cheek by jowl, and country after country, persist in these insane projects. How do you have any, people rightfully, I think, now are going to ask, why should I have any confidence in the United States of America that they would live to an agreement that might last longer than Trump lives? Or longer than Trump / J.D. Vance, if he's the one who succeeds Trump.
You mean their term or his life? Just the term?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because look what happened. Trump was there for 4 years. Biden came in and undid, broke all the promises Trump made, undid everything. Now Trump's going to get a chance to get us back on track, but he's only there for 4 years. So any deal that you want to construct should be a lasting treaty confirmed by the Senate, by a Senate vote. Other than that, these understandings, these loose lines, this ridiculous Iran nuclear deal that John Kerry and others thought was such a great idea, and then Trump undid it, and then Biden this is just crazy stuff. And as I look at Syria now, I'm sure there are people in London and DC who are saying, you know what, this sends a strong message now to Iran and to Russia. And in Iran, maybe there's hope now to do regime change in Iran and replace the malocracy with a secular government. There are probably people thinking that. Now, on the other hand, what you have right now, we don't know exactly who all these people are who are going to take control of what's left of major portions of Syria. But the one thing we do know is that the nut jobs in the White House and in the State Department now have the man who is supposedly going to be leading this new government. He's on our terrorist, his organization and he, I think, are on our terrorist watch list with a $10 million bounty on his head. Why would we be celebrating? Either the list was wrong, right? And they shouldn't have the bounty, or we're crazy to think that this guy is going to be somebody we can work with. And, as people are fond of saying, it's one thing to organize and agitate, be a community organizer or terrorist, which is, in some ways similar. It's one thing to do that. It's yet another thing to manage a country like Syria, which may be unmanageable. You have all kinds of different religious, tribal, and other differences that have made it very, very tough to have a civil society inside Syria. So now we have the spectacle of a terrorist organization having who knows what exactly in a place that's ungovernable. Maybe they're going to put more people on the border and attack Israel next. We don't know what's going to happen. And I think Trump is right to say this is not our fight on the one hand, but on the other hand, we do have boots on the ground in Syria. In theory, I believe I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it's wherever the oil in Syria is, we have boots on the ground there. So what are those boots going to do? Are they going to leave? If so, who are they going to? Are they going to do an Afghanistan again? Just turn over this to terrorists? I mean, that seems to be the playbook of the Biden administration. Let's just give the Taliban all our shit. Why not? There was no reason we were fighting them for 20 years. Right?
Wow. Charles, look at this. They're saying that the Pentagon press secretary holds an off-camera press briefing, but we've got a YouTube video here. U.S. forces carried out 75 airstrikes against ISIS inside Syria. And I actually saw a headline. Oh, that was from NBC News. Yeah, I saw a headline about that elsewhere. How can they say it's not our war, but we've had troops there for so long?
Because they're bad liars.
Trump said it. Trump said it's not our war.
No. Well, okay, sorry. I think what he meant there is it's not our war going forward.
I hope so, because it seems like what they're doing in Syria is that they want to steal the Golan Heights. And, they've told us all this stuff about Assad, I haven't really heard what Tulsi Gabbard has had to say about this, but she is one of the people who went and actually personally met with Bashar al-Assad. Another one of those people, actually somebody who I just spoke to, used to be a pretty regular guest on the show when we were doing episodes with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty, Senator Richard Black. He's been to Syria and met with Assad, and he's told me that he was a nice guy. There was another article I saw today. They were looking through Assad's computer or something for, whatever kind of evidence, and all they found was he's sending love notes to his wife. He doesn't look like this horrible, terrible guy. When I think about all the stuff they've told us about Trump, and how much of it I know is completely false, then I look at what they're saying about Assad. I don't really have any firsthand knowledge. I just wonder if they're lying to us about Assad just as much as they have about everything else they ever talk about.
Well, another thing from their playbook is character assassination. I mean, they're very good at that, right? Or they think they're very good at that, and this is no way to run a foreign policy. I mean, I think the founders were very wary. If you read about them and you look at the evidence in the Constitution and the Federalist Papers and things like that, they were very wary. And George Washington spoke in his farewell address, "Beware of foreign entanglements."
Right.
That was a different era, but that warning came out of Washington's understanding and people like Washington's understanding of the history in England and in Europe. And so these foreign entanglements that we have, it's not as if everything's running well back home in the U.S. It's not. I mean, the reports that I see, and of course I'm probably guilty of confirmation bias having made all these moves, but this big move, but the reports that I see about what's going on in New York City and New York State and other places across our large territory makes me question just how much time and energy the United States should spend on anything other than domestic issues.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I've been driving, I see a lot of parts of the country that could use those billions. I think probably more than Ukraine or certainly destroying Syria. By the way, along the lines of problems in New York, Daniel Penny, they dismissed a manslaughter charge, and there's been a warning from Black Lives Matter that if he's acquitted, they're going to riot. Frankly, they should arrest whoever put out that statement, because this is not how the world can work, where a bunch of thugs get to demand what happens in court and say, oh, well, that's justice, and if there's no justice, there'll be no peace. These people don't know what justice is. They want revenge.
Exactly, and Black Lives Matter, as we before others covered exhaustively, particularly with Bob Bishop, is not a legitimate charity. And a lot of money was sent in 2020 and afterwards to entities claiming to be Black Lives Matter, and that money has disappeared, and donors don't seem to be too interested in trying to get the money back or finding out what truly happened.
Yeah.
So, for starters, BLM and anything purporting to be BLM is not a charity. But beyond that, this idea, even if it were a lawfully constituted charity, charities cannot engage in coercion, in illegal activities. You can't threaten a court as a charity. You're going to incite violence. Where's the talk of that being an insurrection?
Well, this is jury tampering. It's witness intimidation. It's all kinds of things.
And if you know, if you wanted to make a real statement about this, not simply because you and I and others care about charities, what you do is you say, no, we're not going to just attack the mouthpiece of the charity. We're going to attack every single trustee, every major donor, supposed donor to this charity, and and yes, go after and arrest this guy for inciting violence and jury tampering. Absolutely, we should do that.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not going to happen in New York City. He's probably going to get an honorary JD from Columbia Law School.
Yeah.
He or
Yeah.
she, or it, whatever it is.
I think I saw that it was Hawk Newsom, but I'm looking there now and I can't really find that so readily. I don't quite have my chops on this new system yet, so I'm not moving at the regular speed that we do in New York. But I mean, again, it's just so reprehensible that they would do that, Charles. And then Eric Adams is just busy jockeying for a pardon. There's a ton of other stuff we wanted to talk about. Trump was hanging out with Elon Musk in Notre Dame. That was cool.
That was truly, I watched the opening ceremony. See, when I talk, the French, as we are in America, the French are quite particular about official events being conducted in French, not English.
En anglais.
And here, or franglais. But here, the opening, I believe, music was sung by this spectacular singer who now has a global career. She didn't have one before, singing "Amazing Grace" in English, and it was really moving, truly moving. And then to see the body language. I mean, Trump, on the one hand, you could say what he was doing was pretty arrogant, but he arrived late. And the reason he arrived late is the first thing he did is shook the hand of every Marine guarding the U.S. Embassy in Paris, thanking them for their service. How about that?
And Joe Biden wasn't even there. He was off somewhere.
He was asleep. If he had been there, he was asleep. And then there was a picture of Joe Biden, who people put up on Twitter, the thought bubble above her silent head was, glad I voted for you, or something like that. She was beaming at that.
I saw that. Joe Biden is just, speaking of France, Charles, this is really like a après moi la deluge moment for Joe Biden, isn't it? He's kind of destroying the world on his way out the door.
Yeah, I mean, he and the team. Somebody tried. Of course, there are always the fanboys and fangirls in the corporate-owned media are always trying to say that Joe did something right, and so they put out some talking points, I think, to the media. And so you're seeing stories about, this situation in Syria is all Joe Biden's wisdom and brilliance. Israel is better off today because of Joe Biden. And somebody put and Sullivan and somebody put on Twitter, Israel is better off today because they did the exact opposite of what Joe Biden and Sullivan and others in America suggested that Israel should do.
Right.
And remember, I think it was right before October 7th last year that Jake the Snake Sullivan did one of those, scheduled interviews where different outlets jockey for the opportunity for a sit down with this doofus. And he covered himself in glory right before October 7th, I think the week before October 7th.
Oh, yeah.
The Middle East has never been in better shape.
I mean, doesn't it just show they have no idea what is going on and they're just kind of like winging it and doing everything by the seat of their pants?
I really do think that the people at the top of the food chain at present in these prize conferring entities, be they charities or educational institutions, just made a project. I don't know how far back it was of saying, you know what, we're gonna destroy our integrity by, instead of giving merit-based awards to people who truly are smart, we're gonna find the dumbest people possible, most arrogant idiots possible, and we're gonna give them every fucking award that we can give them. Case in point, Barack Obama. There was somebody I have a hard time listening to it, but there was somebody commenting on this ridiculous speech that B-Rock gave, where he was. People are noticing this ridiculous speech, but they characterize his demeanor as being that of he's channeling the fact that he's a law professor, and in a very dispassionate way, he's making law professor. He was never a law professor.
Yeah.
And I would be most interested to figure out, to see the syllabus of any class that he taught. It's in quotes taught. So, Barack Obama he didn't get a Rhodes Scholarship, but there's a guy called John Kass, Kass, who I just happen to know who he is, and he's a columnist who used to be, I think, with the Chicago Tribune for a long time. And because of that, he is intimately familiar with, of course, Barack Obama, and with how things are going now inside Chicago. And he has a scathing, long piece. He's now on his John Kass News, I think, a long piece saying, the only way the Democrats can move forward is by turning on Obama. That's coming from, if I said it, that's one thing. But John Kass, a Chicago-based Chicago Tribune dude, is now on his own emulating Tucker, at least in print. This is a big move, and I think he's right. For the Democrats to have any hope of being other than a fringe influence going forward, they have to revisit the whole Barack Obama arc of history. What exactly did he accomplish before he got into the Senate? How did he get into the Senate? What are the truth? And Wes Tucker Carlson, Larry Sinclair's allegations. He's passed a lie detector test. He's never been, I think somebody pointed out that that Beau Biden is Attorney General of
Delaware was the one who arrested him, right?
Right. So, people need to really dig hard on that. They need to understand, Obama was supposed to be this brilliant law professor, president of the Harvard Law Review. Was he stooped by the Clintons in June of 2008? The Clintons clearly understood in June of 2008 that their foundation was a wreck. They understood that. McCain in 2008, he had issues. So the Clintons understood that if McCain won, that they would be protected, because McCain had all kinds of skeletons in his closet that the Clintons were well aware of. So, what did the Clintons tell Team Obama about the state of the foundation, their supposed foundation, as they drafted this memorandum of understanding after Barack won the election of 2008, but before he was inaugurated? So in the same period that we're in now, this pregnant period, where there's a lot of hope for Obama, he's scurrying around. Maybe he was working, maybe he wasn't working, but he wasn't really attending to the details. And he certainly didn't put a tough person on the case of drafting the memorandum of understanding. What I read is that Cheryl Mills, a Clinton person, a deep Clinton person with a lot to hide and a lot to be nervous about, she represented the Obama transition team in drafting the MOU, is one account that I read. I don't know, I'm shocked if that's true, right? So there's a lot that needs Obama needs to be de-deified, or if that's a word, or demystified, or whatever. And people need to understand that for a long time now, many around the world have venerated an arrogant idiot loser who currently is illegally operating something that is definitely not a public charity in Chicago that has at least $1 billion in the kitty. Why do you need $1 billion in an institution that's supposed to house the records of an 8-year term an 8-year period as president? Why do you need to spend $1 billion on that?
Well, it's much easier to buy stuff when you have $1 billion, Charles. By the way, Charles, we are just about to make our way over to the First Amendment Forum. People are going to be able to join us there. Sponsors, of course, can already join us, but if you'd like to hear the conversation continue, please become a sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. That's actually the most economical way to sponsor the show. For as little as $3 a month, plus just a 58-cent Odyssey fee, you're going to get access to sponsor-exclusive content. You can also sponsor on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And even if you subscribe to Odyssey for free without becoming a member, it's still the largest repository of Crowdsource the Truth legacy content on the internet. And everybody got to see this tour of my car. So that was exciting. Charles, we'll be back in just a moment for the conclusion in the First Amendment Forum. Thanks for watching, everybody.